A warm welcome to you from all of us here at Powerscourt with Kilbride. We're slightly later this week with our little service here in this square, but I'm delighted to join you now, better late than never, for the next 10 or 15 minutes as we take a little look at the scripture from the Sunday just gone. And I'd like to investigate with you over this little square and the next one on Sunday a little bit more about opening the eyes of our hearts and living life in a different way through God, with God, and being able to come apart from everything else that seems to grab our attention. It seems to be a thing that we discuss quite often here in this square, but I really don't think that there's too many times it can be said, as our lives and our world are getting even busier now. Let's try and return our focus to the reason why we're in this square at all, and that is to connect with the divine source within us and around us. With this in mind, we pause now, as always, and acknowledge the presence of that divine source with us now, wherever we may be this day. On the way to Jerusalem, Jesus was going through the region between Samaria and Galilee. As he entered a village, 10 lepers approached him. Keeping their distance, they called out, saying, "Jesus, Master, have mercy on us." When he saw them, he said to them, "Go and show yourselves to the priests." And as they went, they were made clean. Then one of them, when he saw that he was healed, turned back, praising God with a loud voice. He prostrated himself at Jesus' feet and thanked him. And he was a Samaritan. Then Jesus asked, "Were not 10 made clean? But the other 9, where are they? Was none of them found to return and give praise to God except this foreigner?" Then he said to him, "Get up and go on your way. Your faith has made you well." On Sunday, in the scripture in the Gospel reading, we encountered 10 people suffering from leprosy who approached Jesus from a distance. They're the saddest words in all of the scripture, because in those days, as until recently, I was in India in 2016, and there were still leprosy colonies there. And only then within the hospitals were people trying to overcome the stigma of leprosy, which had divided families. The thing about leprosy is it doesn't banish you out of sight, but it withdraws you, doesn't it? It makes you live your life at a distance from the ones that you love. So for the 10 people suffering from leprosy to draw close to Christ but from a distance is a very poignant turn of phrase. Jesus tells them to return to the temple, and as they move, they are healed. Can you imagine that just for a moment? As they are running or walking along the road, they notice the things that have drawn them away from people, and even, I suppose, drawn them away within themselves, within their own person, are healed. They're beginning to be healed. Now imagine that just one of them stops in his own steps and thinks, hold on a minute. I need to go back to source. I need to go back to the one who has done this. And the eyes of his heart are sufficiently opened, I would say possibly by grace. And he returns to the feet of Jesus in the most humble posture and thanks him. In our lives, what we need to look at this weekend next is the fact that we can often be drawn away by a multitude of different things, caught up in the workings of the world. And it's not always negative, it can be a really positive experience that takes us up and propels us forward. David Adams likens it to a bow that is drawn to shoot an arrow. Once it is no longer in use, is hung up and the strings are loosened on it, because if they're kept taut for any length of time, the bow will be bent out of shape into a sort of a less useful fashion, and the strings may snap, or the bow itself will snap. There's only a certain amount of strain and pressure and stress that people, or activity that people can give their lives to without burning out or feeling completely overwhelmed. So what I wanted to revisit with you is our ability to be able to choose a time in the day when we can remove ourselves from this and reconnect. One of the most powerful prayers you can pray to the divine is by simply doing nothing. Because by doing this, you're acknowledging he is there, or she is there. You are retuning your senses. You are acknowledging far more. And this is rest. Our hearts are restless, was the collect last Sunday, until they find their rest in you, God. God is the ultimate rest. And so often we think that we should be rushing around and praising him and doing all this, when in actual fact all he really wants is the prayer, the goodly prayer of our attention with him, through him and in him. that one person who suffered from leprosy, the eyes of his heart were open. And he realised he didn't just keep running on. This is marvellous now, I'll just get on with the next part of my life. This is fantastic, I have it. No, he stopped and he went back to source. May God give us grace this day and during this week to look for him in the smaller moments, to allow ourselves breath in order to move through the day with him, to be able to place our hand in his every morning and say, Father, I will let you lead me through this day. I will relinquish this need for control. I will allow you to guide me through this day. And believe me when I say to you that the work will still be done, possibly more efficiently than before, because the clarity of thought you will have while operating in God's timing, which is a different set of timing, if you like, or a different rhythm than our own. What you will accomplish in that peaceful timing will be astounding. God give you grace this day to open the eyes of your heart to see him in everything that you do.